Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dennis Brown, and this is my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. So today we're going to be doing a live Q&A, right? I've been doing these Q&As on Monday for years now. I've kind of changed the format a little bit. I'm focusing these Mondays more on lives than specific training topics, but I do release new training videos every week. So those are separate videos. They're usually, 5 or 10 or 15 minutes in length. These Q&As usually range anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes. So if you're here and you're new to becoming a freight broker and you have a lot of questions, definitely hold tight because we're going to jump into some Q&A. Again, this Q&A is dedicated, predominantly to newer people to the industry, right? If you're researching on becoming a freight broker or becoming a freight agent or how to get your freight broker license or how to get your first few customers as a freight broker or freight agent, rating and sourcing and using the different technology that's out there, TMS and sources to get shipper leads and all those sorts of questions. Those are all great questions. Those are all things we can answer today. Again, this is a live Q&A. So I want you to hold your questions. Again, I did not send, I kind of jumped on here last second. You can even see I was a minute or two late getting on here. I had a whole bunch of things I had to get done this morning. I was just running around. So I didn't send an email out to everybody on my list. So whoever shows up, shows up. And if you're catching us on replay, hit me up with hashtag replay in the comments. For now, just hit me up with the city and state you're logging in from. I'll give you some shout outs and then we'll get started in just a minute or two. All right. So who do we got in the audience here? Who do we got joining us? I mean, again, we're streaming this on YouTube. We're streaming this on LinkedIn and Facebook. And of course, we've got Fort Lauderdale. Joe from Fort Lauderdale, welcome. Let's see if we got some of the regulars here. Normally there's a bunch of, we got Scott from Lubbock, Texas. Welcome, Scott. He's been joining us quite a bit lately. Ella Tutusa from San Jose, California. Welcome. I'm going to shut my phone off and all my notifications here to make sure we don't get interrupted. Boom. Okay. Do not disturb. Alexandre from Montreal, California, or Canada. I'm assuming Canada. You said CA, so I think California. So it's either Montreal, California or Montreal, Canada. I'm not sure. But either way, that's fine. So for those of you that are just kind of, Canada, of course. Okay, very good. I thought so, but when you said CA, I kind of screwed me up a little bit here. Usually when I hear the abbreviation for Canada, it's CAN, but whatever, no big deal. So what was I going to say? For those of you that are just kind of joining in, okay, here's the format. It's really simple. We're going to do Q&A. And then what will happen is if you're catching this on replay, you can catch this on replay. I'll also release a specific training video. Typically, those videos are 5 to 10 minutes long. They usually go out on Wednesdays or Thursdays. So if you're not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, let me try to find it. Oh, here you go. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and then hit the all notifications bell. That will allow you to get notified whenever new lives or whenever new training videos come out. Again, I've got over 300 free training videos on that platform, right? So definitely take advantage of it. Okay? All right, so we're going to get started here in just a minute. We got Corey from Billings, Montana, as always. A few more people are joining us. How many of you guys have taken the Freight Broker Bootcamp Startup course or the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator Coaching Program? Okay. Hit me up in the comments and let me know. I'm going to question you first, and then I'll let you ask me some questions. Okay. Hold tight on your questions for now. But how many of you have went through Freight Broker Bootcamp or the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Hit me up in the comments with which one or both, right? Either FBBC or FBSA or both. Okay, cool. Corey's went through both. Eclectic Rose from California. Welcome. Cynthia from Maryland, as always. Joe's done both. Ella Tatusa has done the boot camp, which is my startup program. Yeah, just so you guys are clear, back in 2009, when I had my brokerage, I launched what's called Freight Broker Boot Camp, which was an online self-paced freight broker and freight agent startup course. Since then, we've put over 10,000 students through that program. It's probably closer to 20. I should probably get another total, but I just got sick of changing it. Over 10,000 students through that program. And then several years ago, from the request of all of my students, I put together a freight broker sales training program that's geared specific to how to get shippers and sales, because that's where some people struggle after going through the startup program. Since then, I've put over 1,000 clients through that program. And they're different programs. One is for startups. One's for kind of the next step where you're really looking for specific help and coaching on how to get shippers. So if you guys are interested in the boot camp, and we're going to get started in just a minute. If you guys are interested in the boot camp, the startup program, just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, over 10,000 students, and we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. If you're interested in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, that's currently sold out. We don't have any openings right now, but we will be opening enrollment here in the next week or two. So if you get on the wait list, you'll be one of the first to get notified. And, we'll be able to set up a call and see if we're a good fit to work together. Okay. That is a freight broker sales coaching program where I take that piece of my brain and I teach you my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, and my entire freight broker sales system that allowed me to do over $200 million as a freight broker. Okay. So those are the two. That's my infomercial for today. Let's come in and see what we got for additional people. Scott took the course. Cynthia, CVS. I'm not sure what that means. Oh, Sales Accelerator. Okay. Cynthia, Sales Accelerator. Yep. Eclectic Rose. I'm planning on taking Freight Broker Bootcamp first and then the sales. Yeah. Eclectic Rose. That's a good idea. Start with Bootcamp. Okay. Start with Bootcamp. Perfect. All right. So who has questions? If you guys have questions about freight broker startup, getting your freight broker bond, your freight broker license, setting up your office, freight broker software, freight broker sales strategies, how to get shippers, sourcing carriers, rating, mindset. Maybe you're struggling with the fear of failure or the fear of cold calling tips, using email, using LinkedIn. I mean, I'm just giving you kind of a brain dump of different questions and topics that people ask me all the time, regular common questions that I get quite frequently. So hit me up in the comments with any questions that you guys have, and I'll do my absolute best to try to answer those questions. And then we'll get out of here. I know you guys are busy. I know you got a busy day ahead of you, as do I. So yeah, let's do it. Who's got questions? Cynthia's always got a question or two. I know Ella Tusa's had some questions. I know Scott Taylor's had quite a few questions lately. So yeah, I agree. Both, if you go do the Bootcamp lifetime membership, the Platinum lifetime membership, that's lifetime membership and lifetime support with any questions you have. If you do the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, that's also lifetime membership, right? And lifetime support. So yeah, you can't beat it, right? Because the questions you have today versus the questions you're going to have a year or 2 or 3 years from now are very different, but we still support you throughout your journey. Okay. So I hope that helps. Good point. DC Bennett 2000 from Florida, South Florida. Welcome. All right. So who has questions, guys? This is a live Q&A. That's why we're here. I'm sure that you learn a lot from the questions of other people in these types of lives, but I need you now to step up. Somebody be the guinea pig. Somebody be the first person to break the ice, and we'll get this show on the road. If not, you got just a couple of minutes and then I'm going to bail because I got a lot of other stuff to do if nobody has questions. Okay, here we go. We have a meeting today with a potential first-time customer. What should I be anticipating? Okay, So, this is a hard question to answer in this format because I don't know if you've already spoke to them in a cold call or how you met them. I don't know a lot of the background. Now, if you were in my sales accelerator, we would work together. I'd ask you a lot of questions, and then I would come up with some experiential type of recommendation based on my past experience and based on the sales accelerator system. So it's kind of hard for me to answer that. But if you are a phone call or a face-to-face, either way, what you should be anticipating is this. If they've agreed to a meeting, that's a great sign. If they've already agreed to a scheduled meeting, that's a great sign. That's a buying signal, okay? Because nobody's going to schedule a meeting unless they have some sort of need, want, or desire for change. So it doesn't mean that they're going to start doing business with you. It just means that that's a good buying signal if they've already scheduled a meeting. So kudos to you on that, getting that meeting scheduled. Now, the next step, they're probably going to have some questions, right? They're going to have some questions for you, some basic questions. If you haven't already filled it out, if you haven't already given them kind of your broker packet with all your credentials and whatnot, they're probably going to have some specific questions for you there. The last thing you want to do in this type of an environment is to get on that phone and start puking about yourself and your company. That's the last thing you want to do. What you should be doing is strategically coming up with some questions that's going to allow you to understand their business better, to gather some sales intelligence on them, so that you can eventually use that information to come back to them with to better understand what their pain points are, what their issues are, what their challenges are. And then you can come back to them with some sort of potential solution, whatever that problem is, right? So I wouldn't get on the phone and start doing a big song and dance about, hey, this company's been around for X number of years and blah, 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 blah. They're going to ask those questions. Those questions are easy to find, the answers to those questions. So, the important thing is I think that you should have, 3 or 4 strategic questions that you want to use to gather. And the way that I would take this meeting is I would kind of take the pressure off at the beginning of this meeting and say, listen, we really appreciate you scheduling this meeting, but I'm going to be very upfront with you. I'm not even sure if I can help you yet. So my goal in this meeting is to have a nice dialogue, learn a little bit more about you and your business, ask 3 or 4, questions so that I can gather some more information to see if we're even really a good fit. If we are a good fit, then I'm going to propose, some ideas and solutions on how we might be able to help you. If I don't believe we're a good fit, then I promise I won't waste any more of your time. So that takes a lot of the pressure off. You see how it's kind of disarming? I might even say something like, listen, I'm not here to take food out of the mouth of your other providers. I know you have providers you've been working with for a period of time. That's not my goal, is to displace them or take their freight. You have long-term relationships, so I'm not trying to disrupt that. All I'm trying to do is better understand your business so that I might be able to identify some gaps where we might be able to assist and really help you improve what you have going on over there, right? So disarming them and taking that more of a consultative approach is going to take their levels down, right? And it's going to allow them to be a little bit more open with you. So, I'm just giving you a little bit of a brain dump on how I would handle an initial sales call like that, as opposed to how most people do it. They get on there and they start vomiting all about themselves and all about their customers and all about their great technology, yada, yada, yada. Nobody wants to hear that. Okay. If they want those questions answered, they'll ask you. They might ask you, well, how do you handle tracking? Okay, boom. Now you talk about tracking. Or, what types of carriers do you use? Well, how do you vet those carriers to ensure we don't run into any fraud or any sort of, liability issues? Then you answer those questions, right? So that's just going to give you I'm giving you a little bit of a roadmap. Did that help? Give me some feedback in the comments and let me know if that helped. DC Bennett 2000, what's your advice about Hotshot? Way too generic. What are you looking for? Hotshot is a niche that a freight broker can go after, right? based upon some limitations as far as equipment. It's typically not full truckload, right? You might be using cargo vans. You might be using, they're typically smaller shipments in a lot of cases. So it really depends. You got to be a little bit more specific on what you're talking about. I know a lot of freight brokers that love that niche. Okay. But I don't know what you want, what type of feedback you want. Advice. My advice would be, without really knowing in detail what you're looking for, is understand and learn and become somewhat of an expert, right, on what it means to do hotshot logistics, right? Understanding the type of questions or the type of equipment, understanding the most common problems that hotshots solve and the challenges that it solves, and then identifying companies that utilize that type of shipping, right? So sometimes that might be challenging, right? Because there are some industries that are more prevalent to using hotshots, but it's a little more challenging than saying, hey, it's a bottled beverage company or a steel company or, a produce company or oil and gas or plastics, right? Or paper, So be a little bit more specific with your question. Yeah, I think that hotshot's a good niche. Again, there's some challenges just like there is in any other industry, but yeah, I think it's a good niche. And the key is you got to start with researching what it means to be a hotshot logistics provider. So find some other companies out there, do some research on those companies that do it really well, right? And identify the common problems that they're solving, identify the types of equipment they're using, identify the types of shippers and customers that they're working with, and that will give you a bit of a roadmap right there. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. Who else has questions? Good question, DC Bennett. Thank you. Good question. Now it's two. So I'm glad that helped. Oh, by the way, if you, if I answer a question for you and you guys find it helpful, what was the, I was going to put it in here. Hold on a minute. Give me 1 second. If anybody has any questions, hit me up in the comments while I'm doing this. I have a request for you. Okay. So for any of you that have asked a question and you got good value from the answer that I gave you, or if you're listening to the question and you got good value, please write a short Google review. It'll literally take you 60 seconds. Okay. I just typed that in. It should be on, I don't know if it's on the LinkedIn one, but I'll make sure we put it on the LinkedIn one. Give me 1 second. Yeah, for whatever reason, when I type a comment in, it doesn't do that. Let's see. Okay, cool. Let me get back to this. Okay. Questions. What questions did we have? DC Bennett, do you offer private consultations? No, I don't do one-off coaching or consulting. Okay. I don't do one-off calls. I don't do one-on-one coaching and consulting. I used to. The problem was, I just couldn't impact enough people, and most people couldn't afford, my 1 hour consulting rate when I had my consulting business was $1,000 an hour. So most people can't really afford that. So I started doing a group program, which is this Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which is a small group VIP program. And that program has worked out extremely well because it's not nearly as expensive for people. It's much more comprehensive because it's not just a one call deal. Those programs are typically anywhere between 5 and 8 weeks long, right? Is what I've kind of developed those programs to be. So yeah, good question. But yeah, I don't do one-off consulting and coaching stuff. Let's see. Anthony, what is a good way to enter the aggregate space? The exact same way as I told DC Bennett to focus in on the hotshot niche. The exact same way. Find a company that's already doing what you're looking to do. Find some companies that are already doing what you're looking to do and gather a bunch of information about the types of equipment, the types of problems they're solving, the types of customers they're going after, right? And use that as a bit of a roadmap. Obviously, you're going to want to consult the load boards a little bit and understand what type of equipment available, the rates, the load to truck ratios in and out of any specific niche. And then you're going to want to make a list of companies that actually utilize your service. You could use if you're looking for a lead source, right? If you're looking for a place to aggregate a bunch of leads and research a bunch of leads for free, you can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. That's a company called Apollo. If you use that link, you can sign up without a credit card. And you have unlimited access to their freemium model, which is they have a ton of free data that you can access. And then there's upgraded data that you can pay additional money for, but you never have to enter your credit card. And it's a great way. I mean, once you've identified some of the types of companies that would be using your service, you can go in there, like, for example, the produce industry with companies that have, from 10 to 100 employees that are located in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, North Carolina. And then, you're looking for the shipping manager, and then it's going to give you an entire list of people that meet that exact criteria, right? It's an incredibly powerful tool. It blows my mind that it's free. I wish to God I would have had this tool. Oh, gee. I lost you guys. Sorry, I was on here and I lost you. That camera's not working properly. Give me 1 minute. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can get this to work with my good camera. Let me see if this will work. Not looking good. Well, it looks like we're going to stick with this camera for now. All right, for the rest of the live. Sorry about that. I apologize. I was talking about, I don't know where I got lost, but if you're looking for a source to find leads, right, to find potential shipper leads and companies, you go to that website, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. You can sign up for free with no credit card, and you can aggregate lists of thousands of different shippers that are specific to your niche. If you're looking for something in the bottled beverage industry or the steel industry, or you're looking for a specific geography, or you're looking for a specific company size, or you're looking for a specific title like warehouse or shipping or logistics, it'll compile that entire thing, and the data is absolutely free. Now, you can get enhanced versions of data where they have cell phone numbers and all kinds of stuff, but it's an incredible tool. I wish to God that we had that tool when I was a new broker, right? That didn't exist. When we wanted to buy access to a database, I remember back in the day, even prior to my logistics company, there was a company called what the heck? Hoovers. It ended up getting bought by Dun & Bradstreet. It was Hoovers. And I think back then it was like close to $15,000 a year. Okay. And the data wasn't much better. Now you get that stuff basically for free. So if you're looking for a source of free leads to access and aggregate a list, that's how you would do it. But I hope you did get the question answered on the front end as far as how to do it. If not, then come back and hit me up with that question again. Okay, question from Milan. How do you connect to pharmaceuticals? They seem hard to get and potentially highly profitable. Okay, so pharmaceuticals is a niche, all right? It's a niche that, again, here's a couple of things you need to know about this niche. Number one, some pharmaceuticals, matter of fact, most pharmaceuticals, let's not say most, a lot of pharmaceuticals require temperature controlled trailers. So you're going to have to use a refrigerated unit. Now that doesn't mean you're going to freeze them. It just means they have to have a certain temperature tolerance. So, they can't be in the back of a van where the temperature goes up to 100 degrees because it could have an impact on the medicine. So a lot of times, some of them can go on a van. Many of them are going to have to go in a temperature controlled unit like a reefer. So that's something you need to know up front. Okay. So that adds a level of complexity to the movement, which is good. More complexity equals more opportunity equals more margin, right? So, going after pharmaceutical companies, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, again, identify some companies. This is a simple roadmap for any niche. Identify some companies that you know of. Let me pop this up a little bit. So it's such a crazy angle. There we go. I don't want to look at my double chin, just to be honest with you. Identify some logistics companies that are already focused in on that niche and identify the types of equipment they use, the types of problems and challenges they solve, and then the types of customers that they go after. That'll give you a little bit of a roadmap. Then, of course, you're going to want to look at the load boards. You want to identify, types of equipment and whatnot. Now you may or may not be able to do that unless you have like a geographical location that you're focused in on. If you're focused in on pharmaceutical companies in the Northeast, then obviously, you could identify refrigerated trucks and trailers in the Northeast. You can't necessarily determine what type of freight they have on their truck. The other thing you want to consider is a lot of pharmaceuticals, like it or not, are imported, right? We get a lot of our pharmaceuticals overseas. So that adds a level of complexity to it. Even if you're not doing the overseas ocean freight, maybe you're only handling the drayage part on going to the port or leaving the port, right? So there's some things to consider. I don't think, and then you brought up a good point, high value. Sometimes those shipments are it's not going to be sufficient to have $100,000 in cargo. You may have to have $250,000. You may have to have $1 million in cargo, depending upon the value of those shipments. So they can be high value shipments. There's a level of complexity to it. Now, going after them is no different than anything else. You want to do the research on that niche, identify their challenges and issues, identify some companies that are servicing them, and then you want to build a list. That's the reason why I gave you that lead source, Apollo, to go to and do searching. You can go in to look in pharmaceutical companies in these states based upon this number of employees, and you're looking for the shipping manager or logistics manager. It's going to give you an entire list. In seconds, you'll have that entire list and you'll know who those companies are, and it's free. I know it's crazy, but it is. It's totally free. So I hope that helps. If you want me to peel back the onion a little bit more, be a little bit more specific, and maybe I can try to add a little bit of, texture and color to it. Oops, sorry. Thank you, DC Bennett. Appreciate it. Milan says, how do we know you're still relevant? Things you talk about seem like worked 5 years ago. Sales different beast nowadays. Really, Milan? That's funny. I have students. Well, here's the proof. Okay. So I have students. And I have clients in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, all right, that since the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which I started several years ago, have built 7-figure plus businesses after having no clients and having little or no experience in the industry. So the proof isn't in me going out and getting the shippers. I've already done all that, right? The proof is the clients that I've worked with. So that's the number one determining factor of relevance, right? Do my strategies work today? I'd love to hear your take and your expertise on how you get customers. Okay. I'd love to hear that. Maybe you have some special way of doing it. If you do, and there's some sort of magic push button type of, hey, we can get customers without having to do sales, well, then fire away. I'd love to hear it. I doubt that happens. You hear a lot of people talking about automated, hey, we can send out 10,000 emails for you, or we can send out 500 LinkedIn messages a day, or we can, all these different automated versions. That's all bullshit. I'm going to tell you right now, it's all bullshit. You're going to do way more damage, right, than you are good, because you can't try to send a one-size-fits-all message out to the marketplace and expect it to land with any sort of real conversion rate, right? And the problem is when you do those cold outreaches and you make them very generic, people can see it, they feel it, and then you've then made a horrible first impression that's almost impossible to recover from. So I'd love to hear what your strategies are for getting customers that are different than mine or better than mine or whatever. But yeah, the proof is in my clients' results. That's where the proof is. Anthony, in aggregate, would you prospect the construction company or the rock quarry? Both. Why would you do one or the other? I would do both. And then what happens if I call 20 rock quarries and I call 20 aggregate companies, right? Or, construction companies, I'm going to learn a lot about who pays for the freight and who manages the logistics. But it's not always going to be a one size fits all. Sometimes the rock quarry might provide the product with delivered pricing. Sometimes the construction companies want to control the freight, so they control their pricing and they can therefore control picking up the freight at the origin. So it's not a one size fits all. I would call both, gather some market intelligence, and then use that to make an educated decision on how you're going to prospect moving forward. Michael says, I called the customer and spoke to them on the phone. Then they started to ignore me. Should I keep calling or emailing them if they're obviously ignoring me? So, Michael, I don't know the contents of your conversation, your first conversation, but you will get ghosted by custom prospects that have spoken to you the first time and maybe were nice to you or maybe even shown a little bit of interest. But you will get ghosted by prospects. If that's going to derail you, then you got to get over that. Okay. Because you will get ghosted. So the secret is to follow up without alienating them or upsetting them or driving them further. So here's how not to do it. Okay. Hey, just checking base. Hey, just touching in. Hey, touching base, just checking in. Hey, just seeing if you got my email. Hey, did you get my voicemail? Or leaving the same voicemail over and over again, or sounding frustrated in your email or your voicemail messages, right? That's a surefire way to alienate them further. So the right way to do it is to leverage sales intelligence that you gathered during the call, leverage sales intelligence about their industry, about the products they sell, about their company news, about them personally, and then use that as a way to ask questions and start a dialogue without sounding salesy. Okay? If you're just responding back and saying, hey, can we schedule a call? Can we schedule a call? Can we schedule a call? Well, that's going to get old really fast. So no, I don't think you should necessarily give up. But you're not going to leave a voicemail every day. You're not going to call them every day, right? You're not going to send an email every day. You're not going to send a LinkedIn message every day. What you'll probably do is after the first couple of weeks of them not getting back to you, you're probably going to stretch that out, or you're going to push it out a little bit, right? Maybe you're going to push it out 30 days, 2 weeks or 30 days, and then you're going to send some sort of a follow-up, but you're going to use sales intelligence to sound a little bit different. Remember, if you want to get a different result, you got to act different. You got to be different. Okay. So I hope that helps a little bit. I don't think you should give up, but don't be surprised when prospects do ghost you, especially after just the first call. And you're not necessarily, I'm not sure what kind of buying signals they shared with you. The key to not getting ghosted is to go from call to call, right? So rather than getting off that call and saying, oh, okay, hey, I'm going to send you an email, and then not having any specific follow-up scheduled, or you saying, all right, I'll call you next week and we'll talk about the rates, and not having a specific call scheduled, you should go from call to call. If you schedule those activities, right, that's your goal. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but if you want to get ghosted less, that's the way to do it, right? Have a specific action plan reviewed and agreed to at the end of that call. So Michael, just so I'm straight, I'm going to send you these rates and then we're going to talk next week, correct? Yes. All right. Is Tuesday okay? I've got some openings in the afternoon. Will that work for you? And then scheduling an actual call, right? And if they give you resistance on scheduling that call, then there's probably an objection in there. There's probably a challenge in there. You can always go to Wednesday. You can always go to Thursday. But if they keep on continually saying no, right, then you want to dig in. You don't want to get off the phone until you identify what the challenge or issue is or why they're not allowing you to schedule a follow-up call. Because it only makes sense if you're going to go through a proposal that you guys would actually have a conversation on how that would work and any nuances associated with it. So I hope that helps. Michael asked another question. What skills did the best brokers you have ever seen have? What skills? Skills, traits. Let's look at skills characteristics. They're not afraid of they're not afraid of rejection. They got thick skin. Okay? You got to have thick skin. This is a sales-oriented business. If rejection is going to bother you, you're not going to make it. Okay? Pick another career. Be a secretary or work in customer service or something. I don't know. The other thing is the best brokers are relationship builders. They know how to build and retain relationships. And they focus on relationships over transactions. Okay? So that's a skill. They're also highly skilled problem solvers, meaning they're very analytical when it comes to solving problems. They're very proactive when it comes to solving problems, right? Even before they arise. So they're really good problem solvers. What else? Obviously, the ability to sell, right? That comes into the relationship, but having sales skills, understanding how to do a good cold outreach, creating a compelling sales hook, understanding how to ask good questions, right? Understanding how to build that rapport, understanding the proper way to follow up, understanding the proper way to basically do sales so you stand out from the crowd. So those are a few things. If you want some additionals, be specific and I'll try to help. April, how do we get past AI automation? How do you get to know your shippers if half the companies tell you we don't do in-person visits since COVID? Any advice? You do it over the phone. Yeah, the majority of your work as a freight broker, even including sales, is going to be done over the phone. So I'm going to tell you right now, and you're probably going to be shocked at this, but 95% of the customers that I ever landed and worked with directly, not just my company, because we had a lot of brokers and a lot of agents. Okay. So 95% of the customers that I landed and did business with personally, which was tens of millions of dollars. Okay. I never met before we started doing business with them. I never met them. Those initial relationships were all developed over the phone. Okay. And that's still how it works today. Now, I'm not saying that face-to-face is bad. I'm saying face-to-face is good, but you've got some geographical limitations and you obviously it's a lot harder to door knock and get in the door than it is to just get somebody on the phone and start building some rapport, right? And developing a relationship there. So, April, I think the answer to your question is don't worry about the face-to-face, at least initially. Start doing business over the phone, develop those phone skills, develop the skills it takes to find and connect and engage with shippers over the phone, through email and through LinkedIn. Those are probably three of the biggest channels that you'll use to start a dialogue with a prospect that you can then convert into a phone conversation. Okay. So I hope that helps. If you need anything more specific, add another follow-up. Yeah, Milan, new tech, the new tech. I'm not saying technology doesn't have benefit, right? Hands down, I agree 100%. Smile and dial guy. So here's the thing. I'm not a smile and dial guy. I'm a hybrid. So I'm a combination of quality and quantity. Smile and dial guys are quantity, right? 150 dials a day, 200 dials a day. You're just trying to overcome, find a diamond in the rough, right? They typically use the same generic sales script for every person. So I'm not a smile and dial guy. I'm a hybrid, okay? I'm a quality and quantity. So I'd rather see somebody do 50 to 75 really quality outreaches a day to the right person based upon the right market and sales intelligence and the right compelling sales hook, right? Using a multi-channel outreach strategy than I would be somebody just dialing the phone 150 or 200 times a day using a generic script. So yeah, I can tell you that new people to the industry think, because they see it all over social media, they see it all over YouTube, they see it all over the internet, they think the secret is some push button, email automation or some push button AI agent that's going to go out and sell for you. That shit doesn't work. At least it doesn't work today. I can tell you that. I can promise you that. You will spin your wheels if you think that AI is going to go out and get you customers or go prospect for you in the B2B freight logistics environment. Now, I don't know about selling insurance or selling, consumer products. Maybe they could put some sort of automated AI sales rep on the phone that could sell some housewife who's at home looking for, floor cleaner or for toilet paper or for insurance or for, God knows what, right? I don't know. But if they're consumer products, then you probably have a higher probability, but not in B2B. It's just not going to happen. Okay. At least it's not even close now as far as what I've seen. And I keep my finger on the pulse of AI. Trust me. I'm a fan of AI. I'm just not a fan of people thinking that AI is going to replace sales, because it's not in the B2B environment. It's not. Another question. Michael, my son's main goal is to be a wrestler. To improve, a wrestler, should he wrestle year round or do part year judo? Wrestle the rest. Will judo improve wrestling that much to do it? So this is more of a personal question that I'll answer, because Michael's done his research and he knows that I'm a wrestler. I wrestled from the time I was 7 to the time I was like 22. Through college, I wrestled in middle school, high school, and college, Division I, University of Buffalo. So, and then I also, after wrestling, I picked up judo, and I've done judo since then for over 30 years. I'm a 3rd-degree black belt in judo. I'm an instructor. I was a competitor for many, many years. So just giving everybody else a little bit of context. So I did not do judo before I wrestled. I wish I did. But my sensei, Nick Rastelli, who was also my teammate at the University of Buffalo in wrestling, he did judo before he did wrestling. So he started judo at like 4. He probably started wrestling at like 7 or 8. But he did judo and wrestle simultaneously. And I believe that his judo helped his wrestling a ton, right? Here's why. I'm going to tell you it helped him. Because every wrestler has a set of techniques and a set of setups that they use, whether it be double leg or single leg or high crotch or duck under or ankle pick or whatever their takedowns are. Okay. And they have a specific set of ways to set up, whether it be a 2-on-1 or a collar tie or wrist tie. And I'm getting a little bit intricate here, but my point is that judo people that wrestle move differently, set things up differently, and have a different way of doing some of those similar techniques. And so that differentiates them from the crowd because they don't look the same. So does any of this sound familiar? They're a little bit different. Just like I preach in sales, they're different. If you look just like the wrestler, every other wrestler, and you do the exact same things with the exact same setup, with the exact same cadence, with the exact, it's easy to defend. But when you look a little bit differently, I believe judo. So to get to the core of your question, I think that judo will definitely help your wrestling. Okay. But if he's really trying to get a, have a college career, a high school, college career in wrestling, I think that they can definitely help. They definitely complement each other, right? The cool thing about judo versus wrestling is that after you're done in college with wrestling, you're pretty much done with wrestling, right? There's no path for it after that unless you're going to coach. The cool part about judo is that you can compete into your 30s and 40s and 50s because they have veterans tournaments, they have world tournaments, they have all these different tournaments. Plus, you can teach and just work out. It's a sport that allows you to do it into your 70s and 80s. I mean, my sensei, Nicky Rastelli, is in his 50s. We're around the same age. But his sensei, Eric, is in his mid 70s. And we've had there's a lot of judo players that still practice judo into their 70s and 80s. It seems ridiculous, but it's true. It's much more of a lifetime sport than wrestling is a really short window. So see, you get me going on wrestling and judo. Now you know you're going to get me talking. So that was thank you for the question. I know that nobody else in the world is interested in that except for Michael and I, but there you go. That's my feedback. All right. And it looks like that's the last question for today. Listen, this is a great session. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much. Do me a huge favor. Okay. I would truly appreciate it if if you found any value in this at all, please write a short Google review about your experience, right? Whether you were just listening or whether you asked a question and I answered that question for you. Do me a huge favor. I would really appreciate it. Write a short review. Okay. It would be greatly, greatly appreciated if you would write a short review. And I think that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Great job. Make sure you, oh geez, I put it in there. I meant to put it in the comments. Did I put it in the comments? Oh, yeah, I got you. I look in the comments for the link to the Google review. I really appreciate it, guys, if you guys do those Google reviews. Google looks at those and helps us with rankings, and obviously it helps when other potential customers look at it to see and prove that there's real value there. So, yeah. And I'll be doing another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live next Monday. And between now and then, if you want access to over 300 free Freight Broker training videos, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/YouTube. That's my YouTube channel. You can subscribe, hit the subscribe button, then hit the all notifications bell, and you'll get notified on your phone or on your desktop and your computer whenever a new one comes out. If you just hit subscribe, you're not going to get notified. Okay. And I know you want to get notified when the new lives come out. I know you want to get notified when the new trainings come out. There'll be a new training coming out Wednesday or Thursday of this week. I don't know exactly which one we're going to be doing yet, but that will come out. And listen, I really appreciate you guys. Do me a huge favor. And again, do that quick Google review. And we will see you guys next Monday on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Thanks all. Appreciate it.